we can go home now. That was church. Just beautiful. And welcome to Crawford. It's good to see all of you again. We'll greet our live stream on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, live stream. If you're on the live stream, Pisha Chen is your host. Put joys and concerns in the chat, and they'll be relayed to Stacy, and she can share them during the time of joys and concerns. If you're here in person and have joys or concerns, prayer requests you'd like to share, write them out on a card in the pew, and Laura will pick them up during the passing of the peace. We do have nursery care provided for children under 5 downstairs, and a very special welcome this morning to our guest musicians, Asako Shibata and Kevin Owen. We are so blessed to have them play for us. And Helena is off this morning, and so Asako is also going to be playing for our hymns and service music. And I'm just so excited I didn't miss them while I was away. And you've heard them in the prelude, and they are now going to play the introit for us.
Good morning. Would you please stand and join me in the responsive call to worship found in your bulletin? It's from Psalm 32, verses 1 to 11. Happy are those whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered.
Happy are those to whom the Lord imputes no iniquity, and whose spirit there is no peace.
While I kept silent, my body wasted away through my groaning all night long, all day long. For day and night, your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of the summer.
Then I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not hide my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin.
Therefore, let all who are faithful offer prayer to you. At a time of distress, the rush of mighty waters shall not reach them.
You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with glad cries of deliverance.
I will instruct you and teach you the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you.
Do not be like a horse or a mule without understanding, whose temper must be curbed with bit and bridle, else it will not stay near you.
Many are the torments of the wicked, but steadfast love surrounds those who trust in the Lord.
Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart.
Will you please remain standing and join me in the first hymn, number 269 in the red, Lord, who throughout these 40 days.
Lord, who throughout
Please remain standing and join me in the morning prayer, also printed in your bulletin. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness of my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. Please remain standing for the gospel reading. It's from Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again, it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil showed him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. The word of God for the people of God.
You may be seated. This morning is the first Sunday of Lent, which is that 40-day period, which is one of those numbers in the Bible that keeps popping up every time, and it sort of represents symbolically a really hard, difficult time. It remembers the Israelites slog through the wilderness to get to the promised land. It remembers Jesus in those 40 days in the wilderness being tempted by Satan. The 40 days and 40 nights that Noah spent on the ark. Every time 40 comes up, it's like, okay, here we go. And the period of Lent is a 40-day period mimicking that to deal with the harder things in life in preparation for Easter and the joy of Easter, to really be able to understand what that means. Lent began on Ash Wednesday with the remembrance of our mortality. It actually ends on the period from Maundy, Thursday through Easter is its own little period. But we're beginning that now. And so to kick that off, Lent has been celebrated for millennia. But Catholics and Protestants have often had a different take on how, especially the practices surrounding Lent. And so I thought the beginning of Lent might be a good time this year, as I'm going to be beginning a sermon series about what we believe and what each one of us, to encourage everyone here to think about what you yourself believe, not about what you don't believe, but what about what you do believe, to put some meat on those bones for yourself and to think about that in the broader context. So I thought this morning I would invite my best Catholic friend, Sal, to come and have a conversation with me about our differences growing up in the church with practices of Lent, his from a Catholic perspective, mine initially Baptist and then Methodist. And then after we've talked a little bit, we'll open it up, and if there are things that you would like to share about that, we have, I think, Robert is here and has a handheld microphone, and you can put your hand up and he'll bring you the microphone and you can share some of that too. And I was going to time all of this and left my phone. So you have one. Awesome. We both need that, Sal. So come on up, and we will move to our little conversation seats and talk. All right, so we're going to, I think to start, both of you know Sal and I could well talk right through the blizzard. So we're going to do our best here. But we were talking last week, and then again some yesterday, about sort of the different ways we viewed Lent growing up, how that has changed in both different and similar ways for each of us as we have gotten older. And so, Sal, I think I'll have you kick off. What was it like to be a Catholic when you were a kid and Lent came rolling around, and how did you feel about it?
Awesome. Thank you, Ann. First, before I go any further, thank you, Ann, and thank you, this beautiful community. Thank you for all the love you've given me, just the allowance to be up here. And I'm not saying this in any small way. As a sinner who gets to sit on the altar of God and then talk about God, you know you don't deserve it. So thank you for the love you've given me. Thank you for the hospitality and the kindness. Okay, now to Lent. As a Catholic growing up, the first thing, I think I was 27 years old when I realized there were other seasons in the church. I swear to God, this is not a lie. I started teaching Catholic school at 22, and somewhere in there, 22, 23, 24, I'm like, what's Advent? I had no idea. But Lent, as a Catholic, Lent, you knew Lent. Right? Lent was enormous, and it was, and the dominant language was this: what are you giving up? And the dominant spiritual connection was Jesus suffered and died and sacrificed on the cross. He gave his life for you. The least you can do is give up some chocolate. Right? So I'm being a little jokey, but the truth is, that's the truth. That, as a kid, that was the dominant form of Lent. Christ died, sacrificed on the cross. What are you sacrificing? And so giving up something was the dominant form of, say, my childhood Lenten experience. And at that time, it was the only season in my church experience that had a shape and a form to it because of the marking of Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. So that's the early Catholic, the early Christian experience for me. And for you, Ann?
Yeah, and I first learned about Lent not from my Baptist church at all, because that wasn't really marked by much. But growing up as a Baptist in Rhode Island, where I was the only kid on the bus on Wednesday afternoon because everybody else was at catechism, the highly Catholic state. And my friends were all giving up meat on Fridays during Lent. And I'm like, what? What is this? But then I learned that this was a spiritual practice, and I was a really, really religious kid, so if I should do that. You're supposed to give up something for Lent, okay? And I tried various things, but kind of on my own, because the church wasn't really talking about that. And we didn't have Ash Wednesday services. There weren't the liturgical colors that changed or anything. And so but Protestants, especially in a heavily Catholic region, try very, very hard not to be Catholic. Whatever. We're ourselves, that old Catholic Protestant divide from Britain, which is still very, very much alive, has come over here, and as Protestants and Catholics interacted, and there was this thing called Lent, and there were other kids like me saying, well, aren't we supposed to give something up? And in the churches that I was used to, the answer to that was sort of, no, that's a Catholic thing, but we recognize it by doing something good, like adding a good habit instead of subtracting and taking something away. This is a time to focus on spiritual disciplines and to do extra stuff. So read, in my case, more of the Bible, because I was reading the Bible anyway as a kid, to read more, to pray more, we'd have these various programs of 40 days for each of the 40 days, send a supportive note to somebody, to each of 40 days, keep a little gratitude journal at the end of the day, something that would build up your own spiritual practice. But it was an addition, not a subtraction. And it was about, in a way, they were the same in being about spiritual discipline.
Yes.
But it was the discipline of fasting for you, and the discipline of more stuff to do, adding specifically spiritual practices that might be missing in your life. And so I did, I would end up doing both. And I can tell you that all the Catholics around kept that no meat on Friday thing, because when I got a job as a teenager at Burger King, there were no burgers sold on Fridays during Lent. The fish sandwich rate went way up. So they were being good. But then things changed for me, and I've written about that. I've written about that some. But both of those things, and I'll morph into my more adult understanding, and then you can go, and then we can open it up. Both giving up and adding to both began to feel oppressive to me. As life went on and I lost more and more things, and at times in my life when I wouldn't have had any experiences at all if it wasn't for the experiences of loss. And I thought, and now comes this season and I'm supposed to give up more? Really? And then in terms of doing things, especially in ministry, the life was so constant, 24/7, 365, and I'm supposed to do more? Really? More? And I resented it, and I came to a point in my life where I gave up Lent. I gave up,
That was the
preach
discipline.
about it, whatever. My discipline was, I gave up Lent for Lent. And that was just kind of done. And then, I won't go into the story, I've written about it, but the day when I had to impose ashes on my mother, when she was part of my congregation in Dover, as she struggled to find the front, and it was the beginning of her journey to ash herself. And I was just like in a puddle. as I'm saying, dust you are and to dust you shall return, as my mother is beginning that process, was just, it reoriented how I thought about Lent. Because and for me now, it's not about the practices so much as it is about the themes, and about looking at what we begin on Ash Wednesday, in being able to face our own mortality, so that when we get to Good Friday, we can look, we Protestants don't look at a dead Jesus. All year long it looks like this. Catholics have to look at a dead Jesus, like a lot. Catholics flock to Good Friday services. Protestant churches, we don't even have one here. We bundle it together with Maundy Thursday. We don't like confronting even the death that is central to our faith, let alone our own mortality. And so trying to deal with the impermanence and the injustice, as I've thought another step from what all of that means personally, as we think about ourselves coming from dust and returning to dust. I'm now thinking there is a place for practices of fasting when it comes to issues of justice. Because, for me, who have had periods of my life when I actually had to rely on others to provide me with food and housing and the necessities of life. For people who've never even come close to knowing what it's like to be hungry, or to worry about a roof over your head, or whatever, to people who can't give up anything, no matter how much you have, can't give up a single dime or a single bit of time or anything. The practice of giving up something for Lent might be actually really necessary as a spiritual discipline. If you've never known hunger, if you've never known that question of where am I going to sleep tonight, and so I think there's room for that practice. And if God let me design Lent for certain people, I'd have a whole list. But so that's kind of where I am now.
That's beautiful, powerful. Thank you. I'll use this, that I think I hate admitting this as a Christian, but as a Christian, I struggle with Christmas. The gift giving, not that I don't want to buy gifts, I just don't know what to get, right? So what happens? The reduction of sunlight, Christmas coming, I get worn out. And then January 1st hits, and I'm not in any space mentally to make a New Year's resolution. So for me, when Lent comes, so the transformation from the childhood Catholic, what are you giving up? Jesus died for you on the cross. The least you could do is do something to give up, to show your love for Jesus. And not that there weren't some remnants of really good stuff in there, but the evolution of Lent, it has become my New Year's Day. And I can't wait for it to come. I can't wait to ask God, which should be a daily practice, but it becomes more crystal clear for me during Lent, to ask this beautiful, amazing, loving God of mine to help me transform myself from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. And so utilizing Lent as this beautiful spiritual tool I'll use C.S. Lewis, who said something to this effect: the more closely you draw to Christ, the more you become yourself. And so the idea of this transformation from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday is really impactful to me. And I heard a beautiful line once, and it says, around Lent and sacrifice, it says, give up what makes you sad. And I take that to heart. But I'll add another line to that, and do what brings you joy. Right? And so this idea, not personal, that it's just about me, but this personal, as I become more deeply spiritual on this journey, I become a better person to everyone around me. So I look forward to Lent. I always say Lent comes in the nick of time, because boy, do I need saving. And Lent becomes the opportunity to be saved once again from my own undoing. And so utilizing God in this, not utilizing God, that's the wrong language. This God who can do everything and I cannot, this extra reliance for me on God during this season to help me become the person I believe God intended. That kind of phrase and falls a little bit apart during the year. So I love Lent. That's my more adult relationship with Lent. And I'm interested to see what it looks like 30 years from now. God willing, I'm still here.
Yes. So with that, I don't know where Robert got. Oh, there you are. Do you have anything that you would like to share based on this, based on other things about your experiences with Lent? They can be observations, comments, questions.
Could I say one thing real quick? Can we get, the two talk, can we get a round of applause? We were 41 seconds ahead of our goal on that 15 minutes. Pretty unbelievable.
That never happens. Never happens.
Oh, good. Lots of hands. Oh, there they are.
I may have gone to Catholic schools more than anybody else in this building. 17 years of Catholic schools. And in elementary school, I agree with you. The focus was on giving things up. But once I got to high school, it was adding things. So whatever age that was. And what was added a half an hour of lunch every day and added a mass every day, so that and it was optional. It was a Catholic school, but it was optional. And so they made mass available every day. And it kind of refocused Lent. And then when I got into college, during Lent, they did outreach to the community during Lent, more outreach than typical. And I think it was just an evolution from giving up, which I think is not a bad thing, to doing things.
That's awesome, and that's really the beauty of Lent, the fullness of the almsgiving and the sacrifice and the prayer. And that's I feel like your school was a little ahead of time too, maybe, huh?
Yeah, it was a good experience. I have nothing to do with Lent, but I lost my focus. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I was raised in this church, and I don't remember a lot. I just remember Easter Sunday. We always had to go to Robert Hall and get the new gloves and hat and all that. But I do remember I went to public school. I went to Stations of the Cross every Friday. Like I mean, my friends, they had, like you said, they were very structured during Lent. And I also remember at the Winchester Drug, Dave Klein had it then. I was sitting with my girlfriend. We were having lunch. Halfway through, it was a hamburger. When I tell you, she almost threw we had to run to St. Mary's to confession. So, I mean, I just remember it was so much structure, but like I said, they had Stations of the Cross, they had the Ash Wednesday, we had Easter where we got new clothes. It's changed a lot since.
Thank you.
Yes.
Give that a round of applause.
An important connection there to my experience is we both, her from the Methodist, I became a Methodist later, me from the Baptist. Mm-hmm. We learned about spiritual practices, however different they were, from our friends before we ever learned about them through our churches. Mm-hmm. And that's worth thinking about, both for our own witness to our own friends now, but the importance of those relationships, not just trying to find warm bodies to drag into church so that people can learn about spiritual things in the church. We both were learning about spiritual practices from friends who practiced different things. And those things have expanded now because now, friends as kids are Muslims and they're Hindus and they're, I know somebody who converted from Christianity to Islam because they practiced what they preached. And Christians didn't. It was the practices. So just that the human to human connection and the importance of practice in, even if it's just raising awareness that there is something like that to think about, is I just want to stick a pin in that point. All right.
I like this. The idea of kind of being surrounded by Catholic friends, and you're so jealous, like they have something that I wasn't getting in the Presbyterian church. So I remember going with my friends in junior high school after school on Wednesday to St. Bernadette's, and just following them in the line. They're just do what we do, and going up to get ashes. And I just I thought something was going to maybe strike me dead or somebody was going to find me out. And, and then feeling the trickle of the ash on your nose as it gets put on your head. And then I think outside the church, I quickly rubbed it off to make sure I wasn't going to be struck by lightning. But and I did a lot of work in the Episcopal Church before coming here to Crawford, and it was really coming here to Crawford that I kind of started to recognize the period of Lent, and I've tried it different ways, but I like that even if I'm not giving up something or delving into works of charity or whatever, my awareness has been heightened to looking through a Lenten gaze at the world. So even if I'm just kind of skipping along the surface of Lent, not going down deep into it, I have a different experience during these 40 days. And I was remembering in 2020, we were closed out of the church right at the beginning of Lent. And is Pam here today? No. But we decided that we needed more of a uplifting Lent. And we were building colorful butterflies. And these greeted you when you came here. And they were up for a long, long time. And that every week, Pam would bring more plants into the sanctuary. And I would hang up or make another butterfly that we would hang up and so we were, we were also isolated everywhere, that we were trying to get ourselves, through Lent, knowing that there's this little bit of hope we're hanging on to, this little bit of hope, this little bit of hope. And I was just looking at the video from that time, around the church, and it was really gorgeous on Easter Sunday, though nobody could be in the sanctuary, that there was this kind of beautiful garden and butterflies hanging up everywhere, which was, it put a different take on it to try to get through. Thanks.
And Lent
Thank you.
as a metaphor for COVID, I remember thinking this was a years-long Lent, and learning how to see the Lent as representative of what we go through in life, that the 40 days doesn't mean 40 literal days, not in any place in the Bible. It doesn't, 40 years, wherever 40 appears, this means rough sledding. And life is hard, and life is difficult. And just the recognition that that's part of the biblical cycle. It's part of what it means to be human. That there are rough seasons of days, of years, when life is just hard. It's what all those wilderness stories are about. 40 days for Jesus in the wilderness, 40 years for the Israelites in the wilderness. That when we find ourselves, as we all do, or if you haven't yet will, find yourself when just nothing is going right ever. For day after day and year after year, here's another thing and another thing and another thing, because they never come just one. It's thing after thing after thing. To be able to take that experience and put it in a biblical context, to be able to say, oh yeah, this is Lent. This is happening to me, and it's awful and it's hard, but it happened to Jesus. We think bad stuff keeps happening. Is God punishing me? No. It happened to Jesus. It wasn't because Jesus was not on the cross because Jesus sinned. And yet he was still executed like a criminal in the most brutal way possible for the time. And that, for me at least, during those years of COVID, as the butterflies stayed up in here and we weren't allowed to come in, it was awaiting us. It was the promise. Like there's always the promise of Easter. But the Bible also promises us that we don't get to go there. We don't really know what Easter is about until we have walked up Mount Calvary, till we have gone through those hard, brutal times, walked up, stared the death in the face, and then seen the stone can be rolled away. And that Protestants especially like to skip over all of that nasty part. Every church, and it's been around the same. It's about Easter, maybe come for Palm Sunday, go kind of la 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 for the rest of the week, and then come back next Sunday to celebrate resurrection. We don't like that hard part. We don't like it in our lives. We don't like it in our church. But the Catholic practice, I think, as well as the crucifix, has something to teach us as Protestants in that it's all one thing. If it can happen to Jesus, it can happen to us, and it will happen to us, but that preparation is absolutely key to having more than just good music and a nice dinner on Easter.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all. It was great. Great way to start the day and start Lent. I went to Rolling Ridge the other day and got some literature, and one of the things that I read was that whatever we do during Lent is not supposed to end at Easter. That it's what I took from what was written is that we can develop meaningful acts of faith during Lent. It's a time to sort of be reflective about my relationship with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and how does that play out in the world with me as a disciple, and I like that a lot, and it's gotta be like it's a little daunting, right? It's a little more difficult. I was also raised Catholic. I only had 13 years. Actually 14, but yeah. But I also had, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was a bad experience necessarily. So I think everything I heard this morning was really kind. My best friend growing up was a Congregationalist, and I loved going to her church. For Sunday school, I didn't have to go to CCD because I went to religious education every day, 5 days a week. But I never heard anyone say what I read recently about it being a practice to show my faith every day, and however that looks. It doesn't have to be, I guess, something specific, but and also for me this Lent, I really want to not use God as a pinch hitter. I want him to be my coach, and the Holy Spirit especially, and I'm grateful for that too, and I'm just going to put a plug in for Rolling Ridge, as I am one to do. I just love it there, and there's so many good things. It's a wonderful place, and there's a lot of really good programs coming up for Lent. So anyway, just putting that out there.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you, really quick. The first time I came to this church in the 90s for Ash Wednesday, and they were doing the imposition of ashes, I just sat in the seat. I didn't go up. That was way too Catholic for me. That's the truth. That's how I was brought up or something. My parents, not by my parents, just from. So I've come a long way. And we had the imposition of ashes just last Wednesday, and it's a profound experience, and I'm glad. It wasn't for everyone. It is for everyone. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So growing up in a Methodist church down the Cape, I had a much more Catholic orientation for whatever reason toward Lent. I can remember a lot of those rituals and the emphasis on giving up something for Lent. I don't know, the community was Methodist, Baptist, and Catholic. But in recent years, I have paid no attention to giving up something for Lent. But this year, I have a different orientation because I read something or heard something. I mean, I could give up cake or something, but what does that really do to make me more of a Christian? And I think for years I thought about giving up something for Lent, like giving up chocolate or giving up cupcakes or something. This year I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give up something that will maybe make me a better person, a better Christian. So it's the first time in years, but I'm on my way. I've only slipped once so far.
Good morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you for this discussion. It has given me a huge sense of relief, honestly. As a Christian Congregationalist growing up, I never paid a lot of attention to Ash Wednesday. I heard about it through Catholic friends. Never ever saw a service with the real ashes until maybe 6 years ago. Very new to me, despite being very active in the church. So that being said, maybe 15, 20 years ago, working on the job, I saw a coworker, regular busy day, and I said, "Oh, you got a little bit of something on your face." And I wiped off her ashes. And she blew a gasket and started screaming at me about I'm disrespectful to her religion and how can I not even da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was flabbergasted and so, I'm still choked up. I'm so embarrassed, and I just profusely, apologized. Okay, take a deep breath, work out through the day, busy day. Another conversation with somebody, and I go, "Oh, you got something on your face." I freaking did it again. And that's what I said. I said, "I can't believe I did that again." Well, talk about blowing a gasket like I didn't learn my lesson the first time. I just was so unfamiliar with seeing anyone with the ashes on their forehead that to me, and women especially have bangs, and it's not like it's as visible, so I'm like, oh, blah, blah. Wow. I obviously a new appreciation for Lent and other rituals that I was unfamiliar with. And yeah, something I will never, ever repeat or forget. So thank you for your validation here. I was not alone in not recognizing it.
Thank you.
I think Linda will be the last one.
I'll try to be quick. For those of you who have ever been part of a church choir, you know that the music changes dramatically at Lent. It's full of richer chords and minor keys. And if you've read anything about the mind-body connection, then you might understand what I mean when I say that is my favorite. It's my favorite liturgical season, and part of it is the music and the way it makes me feel inside, which translates to a different mindset that makes me much more aware of being introspective and just being more connected to a religious season because of the way the music makes me feel.
Yeah. Excellent point. I think we're going to have to stop there because there's going to be, I hear a little bit of snow coming later today. But even the snow and the blizzard, the point that Lent is a season overall that moves us from outward-facing things to inward-facing things. It's a time of reflecting inward. It's not a time to look so much at what other people are doing as to look inward and think about ourselves, to think about our lives. Is giving up cupcakes something that is really making me a better Christian? That's an excellent question about everything that we do. We all have our own practices that, some are associated with church and some are not. Is this helping me? Is this making me a better Christian? Is it making me a better person? Is it those kinds of reflections when we get, and especially when we get snowed in, when the weather is dreary and the music turns to a minor key and there is a time to turn in to look at ourselves. And then at Easter time, spring comes, and as the buds come out, we go out and we turn to a time of more outward focus that ends finally at Pentecost when the Holy Spirit comes and the disciples go wild and run across all of Asia Minor and starting churches. But none of that is possible without first looking in, sort of getting our own house in order, if you will, recognizing those difficult times, and then seeing how Jesus transforms that death into new life, and then running around and telling everybody how great it is. So Lent in a nutshell, as we begin our time together from now until my retirement in June, to think about what do I believe and why, and is that belief doing me any good? Is it doing anybody else any good? Why do I have it? Where did it come from? And how might it change? So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.